Julie really.
Oh, not sit here?
No, Julie wants to be up there.
Yeah, if you go far enough, you pass all the parks, and then you get to a church that used to be the town hall, and then you've gone too far. You need to turn around and go back. Have you passed the post office yet? I was on autopilot. I know. I know.
Hello, hello, hello. I just want to really quickly say we're going to get started in a few minutes, but please use this time to get some refreshments and go use the restroom. Thank you. How was your commute? No, it's not too bad.
Green is.
Sorry.
Wait, Julie, are we doing the panel up here now?
I'll sit back here. It's just everyone else is sitting in the audience now. Our panel members have.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, well, once we get to the
vacated.
panel, we're going to move everyone up to
Sure.
here.
I mean,
Yeah.
just sit over here.
Whatever mic gets put into the crowd would be that mic if we're passing one around.
Got it.
It's mic one. And you'll press the button to go green whenever.
Never had a room get so quiet so quickly. Jeez. Yeah, you guys can take this time to use the restroom, get some refreshments, and please feel free to talk. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. Oh, yes, I do. Don't mess with me today.
That's good. That's good. No chance.
Well, yeah, I don't really know.
Sure. I guess I know there's a chance for yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everyone. Today I have a gavel, so I'm going to be very annoying. All right, I'm going to bring this meeting to order. Thank you all so much for coming to Tyrone. Before I even get started, I would actually like to invite up Philip to introduce everyone. I want to introduce everyone. Introduce Tyrone. Where did Philip go? Oh, there he is. Yes, this is Philip with the town of Tyrone. Philip, why don't you just welcome everyone? Yes, thank you so much. So Tyrone is actually one of our LCI communities, and if I don't know which way you came in, but at Shamrock Park, they have a beautiful new amphitheater that, when was it constructed? This past year. So they, I think we wrapped up the streetscape study in 2022, 2023. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we're very happy for the town of Tyrone, and we're really excited to see like the growth in the LCI working. So, all right. So, since I always forget, I'm Jillian Porter Willis. I'm a senior planner at the Atlanta Regional Commission. I do a lot of stuff here, but one of the things I do is lead the LUCC meetings. And today we have a very exciting topic, CIEs and impact fees. Yes, might not sound so sexy, but we promise we'll try to make it as fun as possible. But before we get into the CIEs, we do have a few announcements we're gonna go over, and then I'm gonna pass it off to our good friends at the DCA, and then we're just gonna jump right into the amazing world of impact fees and capital planning. Is everyone hearing me all right? Because I'm getting a lot of feedback. Hello. Is this fine? Hello. Now I'm not in the mic. We'll just make it work. All right. So, everyone, APA has finally approved our CM provider status. So, there are AICP credits for this meeting today. Philip, there you go. All right. So, please utilize this thing that we provide for you all. And for those who were at the housing strategy meeting back in May, I have uploaded that onto the APA website, so you can get credit for that meeting too. All right, so first, one of the first announcements is that we have is that Carrie Stevens in our Economic Development Division within the Atlanta Regional Commission's Community Development Team is hosting an economic forum on June 24th, and at this forum, they're gonna tour the Stitch, and she's also gonna talk a little bit about the comprehensive economic development strategy that we're gonna be kicking off shortly, and we're gonna want your feedback on that. So if you wanna be involved in our conversation on economic development, please go to this forum, or please just contact Carrie Stevens, and she will make sure you're in the loop on where we are in that process. And also, we wanted to let everyone know that we've been receiving a lot of emails from Tracy Sanchez with the Department of Community Affairs about the federal opportunity zones. So just FYI, the nomination is open for those opportunity zones. It closes on July 15th, and they're going to be active, I believe, January 2027. Yes, I'm getting some nods from DCA. So they're going to have some webinars, or there are some webinars already on the website. If you're interested in learning more about this, please go to the DCA website and please contact Tracy Sanchez for more information on that. We just wanted to make sure you are all aware of this opportunity and know that it's going to be happening soon. I don't know if either of you have anything else you want to add to that. All right. Regional Excellence Awards. All right, everyone. So if you're not familiar, the Regional Excellence Awards are our way of recognizing our communities across our 11-county region and nominating projects that could be plans, actual developments, or just initiatives that further ARC's strategic framework, but also fits into one of these 4 categories. We have Great Place, Visionary Planning, Livable Center, and Innovative Development. The nomination closes on June 26th, and for those who don't know, this is actually a really big thing that we do as part of our State of the Region. So if you've been to one of our State of the Regions, you know that they're very orchestrated, big events, and that's when we like to recognize you all, bring you on stage, and give you an award. So please, if there's something amazing happening in your community or somewhere nearby you, please nominate it. We want to like really recognize you all and really prop up our communities that are taking the steps to build healthy, livable spaces. And then now it's going to pass it off to Roshni Thakur to talk about Beyond the Box.
Thanks, Jillian. How's everybody doing? Great. It's nice to see a full room in Tyrone. My first time in Tyrone, so thank you for having me. I'm Roshni Thakur. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Community Engagement and Culture. If we haven't interacted, raise your hand. Hi, thank you for coming. It's nice to be in space with you. So, I might need some help with this, and I might need a timer help with this too. So I'm very excited to launch Beyond the Box with y'all today. And who here has heard of community center design? Okay, there's a lot of alum in here. Yeah, so we have that as a program, but we've been doing it 3 years, and we've been listening to local governments, and we decided this year to launch an initiative to support local governments on doing creative community engagement so that we can have better stakeholder engagement in your communities. And so we have Beyond the Box, because we're going beyond the checkbox of regular public engagement, right? And we are, let's see, we have this toolkit. And so I invite you to do the QR code there. And I'm also just gonna, we just launched it on our website, and I'm going to go through the website for you. Jillian. How do I do this?
I didn't realize you needed the website.
Oh, I just wanted to click on Beyond the Box.
Oh, where'd the keyboard go? Oh.
We're going to go to our website, which is in the community development section. And so this is just an intro page, and basically it's a toolkit, and we offer 5 things in the toolkit. And so the flagship offering that we have is the class that we teach, Community Center Design. I'll go into that in a little bit, but the other 4 offerings, let's say you can't do Community Center Design this year, or maybe you've already done it and you want some extra tools to do better community engagement, so we're offering some things for you. The first thing is a webinar. Who doesn't love a webinar? You don't have to leave your office. You can just hop on a Zoom. You can turn your camera off. You can just like sit there and learn, right? But we're offering a webinar on best practices around community engagement. And so if you're interested, you would just click this little guy. Oh. And then it pops up an email, and the email comes to me and say, I'm interested in a webinar. And so I'm gathering how many people want one, and then we'll schedule one for the people for the demand, to meet the demand. The second thing, let's say you're working on a project, doing some community engagement, and you want some support in like how to make it a little bit more interesting, how to like meet the communities that you're not meeting. Well, you can have me or my team who's not here, but Max Coleman and Antonil Jorky come to your office and we'll do a workshop with you for free. And so if you're interested, you just hit this guy and we have a little form for you. And we just ask you, name, contact information, but like what kind of public engagement you're thinking about, or what kind of like initiative that are you doing, and then the timeline for that, and then we'll set that up for you. And that's 2 things. The third thing is worksheets. Maybe you just like have a really intense season and you're like want to do something different, but you don't know how. You can download a worksheet. This is really hard, by the way. So right now we have 5 different worksheets that you can do at different points of your engagement. And so, for example, before any engagement we do, we always ask ourselves, what do you want the people interacting in the engagement, what do you want them to think? What do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do from like, why even do what you're doing, right? And so we have these kinds of worksheets here for you to fill out and think about it with your team. And then, sorry, this is really struggling. And then there's things like goal setting, where you're like, what is success? How are you gonna like measure success for this engagement? Who do you really want to reach? And so these are things that you can just download and work with in your team. Just do it independently. And then the fourth thing is case studies. So maybe you're just curious about like what other people are doing. Right now, this is a resource hub that we have. Lawrenceville isn't here, right? Well, Lawrenceville did this amazing Honest Alley activation. And so you can read about it here, where they integrated arts and culture into their community engagement. Look at all these wonderful people having fun talking about civic duty. And then we have little 5 points. Is something that a CDAP that we did, where we engaged for an arts and culture assessment. But we have a few different things here, so you can Fayetteville. Woo! We have the downtown creative placemaking for you too as a case study. So you can take a look at these, and so you can just start learning how to do this. We wanted to create a resource hub. Are there any questions around Beyond the Box for now? Because I got a special thing for you too, if you do it. No questions? Cool. So if you do it, remember Jillian was talking about an award?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is that there's already a lot of you in your local governments doing interesting community engagement too, right? And we also want to recognize that. So we have this toolkit for if you need support, but we also want to just recognize the local governments that are just trying to do things differently. So next year, we are going to create an award, Beyond the Box Award, for those local governments that can apply by going through all of these things. And then you can get recognized by ARC for all of the amazing creative community engagement that you're doing. And cue. So, yeah, so that's like the long-term kind of idea. We hope that this is helpful for y'all. Do you think you would use it? Do you think you would? I'm getting some nods. Yeah? Cool. And we are also looking for feedback, even if it's just like formatting or just like, we're missing this, or like we're doing this. Like we just want this to be an ongoing conversation, right? So yeah, that's Beyond the Box. And then the fifth thing, going back to community-centered design, we have, who's heard of community-centered design? Okay, I know that Sam talked about it at the last LUCC. Who was at the last LUCC? Okay, cool. So if you weren't here, how do I go back to the... Actually, could you just click on the... So this is a 2026 class. Applications are open. They're open until Monday, July 6th. It is pretty, we only have 16 spots open. And we are doing things a little differently. I work with a co-facilitator named Rostin Wu. He is a place-based artist and designer based in LA. We've been working on this for 3 years, or this is our 3rd year working together on this. And so hearing feedback from the class, we decided to make it more of like a conference symposium kind of style this year. It's gonna be all in person, and there's 3 phases. The first phase is what's possible. And And so it's 2 days, August 20th and 21st. And it is a place where you meet with the cohort. We have 4 community engaged artists that are going to be leading the project work. If you scroll down, you can go see the artists. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And we have Jasmine Carter, Simone Gaskin, Charity Hamadullah, and Aisha Pennerman. They have all taken CCD in the past. They've worked with different communities in different kinds of forms. And so they're going to be leading the project work for the class. And so, yes, in August, when what's possible, we'll have guest speakers, we'll meet the cohort, and then we're going to meet the community partners on that second day. If you go, yeah, where we have Daryl. We have the local food task force. So all of these community partners have worked with ARC before, and so Austell was granted did a
City agriculture plan.
city agriculture plan, and from that we had a steering committee also that evolved into a task force. And so we have a master gardener and her team that's going to be one of the community partners working on food in Austell. We have Build a Better Blacksville. They are working on a neighborhood plan right now, or they're just finishing that up through CDAP, and they are in McDonough. And so they're working on cultural preservation for legacy residents, and so they're going to be a partner too. The Connect, who knows about the Connect? Oh, okay, great. So it is a wonderful Black-owned liberated third space on the west side of Atlanta. We work with them in 2024 for our CCD program, and they do a lot of things where they're a cooperative. They think about cultural preservation as a form of anti-displacement, and they are now working on an initiative to talk about the public determinants of health. So we're going to be exploring that with them. And then the last thing is the South River Watershed Alliance. So they just finished a CDAP too. Was it this year or last year? Last year. And so we'll be working with them, taking one of their recommendations from the CDAP and using arts and culture strategies for that. So basically, we're using CCD as like a second phase for all of these CDAPs and community partners that have gone through something with ARC, but now have like recommendations. And instead of just being like, hey, that was great, good luck on that, we want to have like a platform for them to like get ideas from local artists and this class. So you go back to the website. Do I still have a few minutes or no? I have to wrap it up, but there's 3 phases. You can see everything on the website. Avery in the back has handouts if you would like a little handout. There's limited, so if you want one, if you're thinking about taking the class, raise your hand. Avery will give you one. And then these are the things that you're going to get out of it. You learn best practices on community engagement by gaining access to a network of local and national experts, practitioners, and other socially engaged activities. We have an annual reunion. We just had 3 years of people join us at the Connect a couple of weeks ago. And we're evolving best practices because of this network. So you can have access to the CCD Alumni Network to learn and share successes and challenges, improve your ability to engage diverse stakeholders in your work, and then improve your ability to access ARC grants and technical assistance that require creative community engagement. And so this is the one big thing I want to announce. So starting 2027, consultants who want to bid on any LCI project will have to have someone who has graduated or is taking CCD on their team. So it's going to be a requirement because we are saying that these are best practices for community engagement. And since a lot of the work that we do, consultants do the actual community engagement in our region, they need to take CCD. So I recommend get a head start, do it this year. We only have a few spots open. There's only 16 spots. If you can't make it this year, you can do it next year. But that will be in effect 2027. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Cool. Thank you.
Hello, hello. All right, I can't match that energy. So it is what it is. Thank y'all for being here. My name is Daniel Gaddis. I am a senior policy advisor, for DCA. And my former role, I was working with Community Planning Institute. We've been working with the Plan First program and best practices and success stories. So excited to come here today to talk with you guys about impact fees. And, we're going to absolutely try our best to make it fun, understanding that it's a pretty big uphill climb. So we're going to do a quick Menti poll. Who even are you and what do you want with us? Why this matters, define some terms, talk about the process, understand a little bit from DCA's perspective what the pitfalls are that we're seeing, and what a life raft might be. We're going to talk about unintended consequences of impact fee programs and then provide you guys some resources. So go ahead and snap that QR code for the Slido. I said Menti, but it's actually Slido. Sorry. You can also join at slido.com. Number there is 1193-808. Okay, overwhelmingly, looks like we planners, community development directors. No surprise there. All right, we're going to move on. Which best describes you? Here to learn about impact fees, don't really have much prior knowledge. Very experienced with impact fees and understand the process. Some knowledge, but really could use a refresher. I would be here regardless. I come to many of these LUCC meetings, or as the inimitable Marshawn Lynch, you're just here so you don't get fined. Okay, looks like most folks have some knowledge of the program, could really use a refresher, with a pretty large percentage as well of not having much prior knowledge, so it's good. Folks are here so they don't get fined. All right, do you work for a local government that has an active impact fee program? Okay. Pretty good mix. All right, so here are some of the stats. We have 535 cities in our state, 159 counties. Statewide, we have 62 local governments that collect impact fees, 23 of which are in our region. It means 9% of the local governments in the state collect impact fees. By the way, a couple of housekeeping items I forgot to mention. We will have a panel following this, so please write down your questions and direct those questions to our panelists. Additionally, this PowerPoint, this recording will all be available on our website. We're also going to... You're being recorded. Talking to you, Julie, you're on camera. we're going to be also sending this out to you guys as well. So you're going to have all these resources. And then from the impact fee collection categories, these are where we see the local governments collect impact fees for which category. So obviously we have a pretty tight, it's nearly a tie in terms of public safety facilities, 59, and then parks, open space, and recreation areas, 56. And you can see only one local government collects impact fees for stormwater facilities. So why this matters? This is not, you don't want to get sued. This is not theoretical. It happened recently. Georgia Superior Court judge finding significant issues with how a local government in Georgia was conducting their impact fee program, ultimately ordering the local government to pay back nearly $14 million in fees. I do believe that that is being appealed, by the way, just to provide more context. This matters because impact fees can help pay for infrastructure, for growth in your community. In the hands of a local government that is approaching this with the seriousness that it requires, and if you implement it correctly, it can absolutely be helpful for paying for the infrastructure needed for a community's growth. And thirdly, our staff want to clearly communicate to you what this entails to hopefully prepare you well should you decide to pursue a local impact fee program. This also matters because you guys want to keep that sweet, sweet QLG status, that qualified local government status, like getting those perks in the Delta Sky Lounge. Who am I kidding? I work for government. I've never stepped foot in one of those lounges. Julie, have you ever, you get those little crackers for free? Oh, nice. Husband's a lawyer, okay. Seriously though, keeping QLG or qualified local government status is critical for communities that are seeking state funds. And then this is just an example of the programs that are linked to the QLG status, qualified local government status. And so a local government must meet the statutory definition to be eligible for these programs. And I know that's a lot of programs, so I'm going to kind of highlight a couple of them. We have the Appalachian Region Commission Economic Development Grant Program, Community Development Block Grant, which most of our communities are entitlement communities. The Employment Incentive Program, that's an economic development fund, helps local employers. Our One Georgia programs, including EDGE, Equity and Rural Innovation. State Housing Trust Fund to address homelessness. Yeah, that actually worked. And then, of course, outside of DCA's agency, we have other agencies that also link eligibility to their programs to the qualified local government status. And you see the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, water and sewer loans, all funding and financial programs through GFA, as well as the Coastal Incentives Grant and the Land and Water Conservation Program through Georgia DNR are also linked to the QLG status. And then, of course, you can't see what's on her mobile device. City loses QLG status. There's the total embarrassment of losing QLG status, the hot goss that will follow you if you fall out of compliance. And because of the mechanism of the impact fee program to update annually, there are just fundamentally more opportunities to lose this status if you submit your annual update to DCA late, in addition to your regular deadline for your 5-year comprehensive plan. 1990 was an incredible time. What a time to be alive. HW was rocking it at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. MC Hammer had released You Can't Touch This. My boy Steve Urkel appeared on Family Matters for the first time. And of course, the grunge scene brought forward increased popularity of flannel, creating a false sense of fashion pride from lumberjacks and REI employees everywhere. It also happened to be the same year that the DEFA Act, or the Georgia Development Impact Fee, was enacted into law. So we're going to talk about some definitions. A development impact fee is a payment of money imposed upon a development as a condition of development approval to pay for a share of the improvements needed to serve new growth and development. Public facilities or collection categories. These include water supply, wastewater, roads, stormwater, parks and recreation, public safety, and libraries. Encumber, we see that word. Julie, I told you about getting a hold of these slides. We talked about that. So encumber, to legally obligate by contract or otherwise commit. That's a cummerbund. All right. Capital improvement. This is from the statute. The development impact fee defines a capital improvement as an improvement with a useful life of 10 years or more by new construction or other action, which increases the service capacity of a public facility. I'm not going to read this one out loud, because you guys can read. Just as a reminder, impact fee programs are completely optional. So distinguish a little bit between the capital improvement element and the annual update, because there is a distinction. The CIE, or capital improvement element, is the methodology submitted to DCA for review when a community wants to implement an impact fee program. Now, the annual update is the financial report and schedule of improvements submitted annually to DCA for review by communities who have been approved to collect impact fees. And this is an example of the annual financial report that's submitted by a local government. That's just one part of the annual update. And just to be clear, you don't have to collect for all of these categories. As a matter of fact, we recommend you don't collect for all categories. It just increases complexity. And so we have water supply, wastewater, public safety, roads, stormwater, parks and recreation, and libraries. And these are the collection categories. These are the collection categories for which you may collect impact fees. And those fees must specifically go to what you identify to collect for. You can see that I put a red box around the beginning impact fee fund and the ending impact fee fund. Because when reviewers look at your ending impact fee balance from the previous year, if it doesn't match the beginning impact fee fund balance of the current year, then that's an immediate signal to our reviewers that the math is not mathing, or probably not using audited numbers. All right, for those visual learners, collection categories. Uh-oh. We got a lightning round. All right, just shout it out. Shout it out. What's a legal collection category? Shout it out. We'll say libraries, okay? Stormwater, okay? If we can get through all these animations, just give me a moment. We got libraries. We got, what is that? Yeah, parks and recreation. Stormwater, water supply and treatment. Roads and bridges. I put this green fire truck. Did you guys know within the fire community there's very strong opinions about green fire trucks? Did you know that? It's very, very divisive. We have wastewater, and we have stormwater management. You guys feel good about kind of what's these categories and what you can collect? Jeez. The title of the presentation is Fun with Impact Fees, so we're trying our best here. Is that Courtney Love? We are here with Courtney Love, the star of the surprise sequel, Deep Impact Fees. The film critics are calling surprisingly compliant. Thanks for being here, Courtney Love.
I'm happy to be here, Ryan Seacrest. You know, when they told me we were going to do a sequel to that movie no one remembers, I was on the fence. But the idea really builds over time.
All right, so the movie wraps, the ordinance is adopted, the fees are rolling in, you're riding high. Happily ever after?
Oh no, we're not done. We're franchising. There's the MCU, the DCU, that guy who did Yellowstone, and now it's the CIEU.
The Capital Improvement Element Universe. There's gotta be a better title.
Well, there isn't. But we've got The Rock, so we're fine. He has to submit an annual update to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, show what he collected, what he spent, lay out a fresh 5-year schedule of capital improvements.
This is getting pretty technical, Courtney Love. Tell me, what was it like working with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson?
It's fine.
Okay, are there plans for a multiverse?
If by multiverse you mean, are we doing this every single year so that we can stay in compliance and reevaluating fees if our costs or growth change? Yes.
Wow. So this is not a one-hit wonder.
Oh no, it's a long-running series. Miss a year, and you might as well be Gwyneth Paltrow telling people lettuce is cheese. It's not cool.
You heard it here, folks. To remain compliant as a local government, you're going to have to follow the statute as outlined in the Development Impact Fee Act. And most importantly, lettuce is not cheese. Back to you, Scott. And to Courtney Love, folks. All right. I think I've made it relatively clear this program has some complexity. Here's a trusty visual guide. I know you guys probably can't all read that, so I'll read that to you guys. So consider an experienced consultant for your methodology. This program is complex, much like Gwyneth Paltrow's deep-seated trauma surrounding dairy byproducts. We offer this advice from years of experience reviewing CIEs and seeing successful and compliant impact fees programs. With that complexity, we highly recommend you find an experienced consultant to help you develop the methodology. You have to appoint an advisory committee. The advisory committee must include 40% representation from the local development community. That says CIE methodology must be approved by DCA and your community. After holding required public hearings, submit the CIE to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs for review and approval. Once the CIE is approved, your local government may adopt the CIE and impact fee ordinance. Community must adopt an ordinance and an approved CIE. Then the community decides which trimester deadline will work for them after adopting the CIE. This is as simple as emailing planning@dca.ga.gov to choose your trimester deadline. We will talk about it from there. Then you can begin collecting impact fees. It's go time. And as we hammered the point home, I think the annual update, every single year following, the community must submit their CIE annual update. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of pitfalls. Sometimes we see the methodology is old, still operating on old data that's not current with what's happening in your city or the growth projections. Things change, service area changes. An updated methodology should reflect those changes so that you can continue conducting a legal impact fee program. And if you're not spending the impact fee dollars on those collection categories, you may be liable for a lawsuit. The starting impact fee fund balance for a current submission must be the same as the ending impact fee balance from the previous submission. And when we see that it's mismatched, it can mean many things, maybe unaudited numbers, but regardless of that reason, we can't approve. The tables have to align. When those numbers aren't accurate, it's a pretty big clue to the reviewers that something is amiss. A big pitfall is that a local government may operate on a false assumption that we got this. This is easy. We've got a superstar planner. We've got a great finance director. They can handle this. We at DCA would encourage you to be able to find someone to appropriately dedicate this work to a staffer that is not already operating with a full plate. The program is a long-term program. Really strongly consider your staffing arrangement and the responsibilities to manage this program. Next, and we all know this, we've worked in local government, there's high turnover that happens in our industry. When someone that's been in your local government who may has institutional knowledge about this departs, there may be a gap, a vacuum. So consider succession planning. Make sure your functions are not only known by one individual and that the processes to handle this program are well documented. Ultimately, we want to avoid you guys being accused, like Fred Armisen's character, Raul Alejandro Bastilla Pedro de Velosa from Venezuela. FIFA requires that the impact fee balance be kept in an interest-bearing account. Important to find that. Maintaining your collection category names. A lot of times with the annual update, local government may change the name of the collection category, so it might be confusing to reviewers. It might look like a new category to DCA, which could lead to a delay or a disapproval. And then in the statute, it says, of course, that percentage that goes to administrative costs cannot exceed 3%. We have seen that where it does exceed that. All right, guys, we talked about Life Raft. If you have a pit in your stomach that you might need a way out, maybe that's how you feel, I hope you don't. Hypothetically, and of course this would never be us, but hypothetically, if the local government was fudging numbers or miscalculating impact fees or not spending the fees on the appropriate stuff, and hypothetically, they haven't been sued yet, what advice would you give? With your local city or county attorney. If you have a consultant, speak with them and really consider getting your process right before it's too late. And if you're interested in discontinuing your impact fee program, there's a way to do that. You You just Google DCA impact fee and scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you see a section DIF, Development Impact Fee, Documents and Downloads, and you can discontinue your local impact fee program. Unintended consequences. Befriending Steve Urkel cost the Winslow family hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage. One time, Steve drove his Isetta, pictured here, through the Winslow's garage. And of course, another time, Steve caused significant damage to an apartment complex by releasing genetically modified termites. Much like the friendship between Steve Urkel and the Winslows had unintended consequences, so can adopting an impact fee program. See what I did there? An impact fee program can increase costs of new housing and other developments, since developers may raise sales prices in order to recover those impact fees paid to local governments. High impact fees can also put your community at a disadvantage in attracting new development and could shift development to neighboring cities or counties. In setting fees, consider what the market will bear without discouraging growth, but balance this against the desirability of using the fees to promote your community's desired development patterns. Impact fee systems for certain types of services can be more complicated than others. For example, recreation, libraries, police, they're generally easier than fire, roads, and bridges, stormwater management. Some communities choose to start with some of the easier categories and then add impact fees for more complex types of services later. Just as a reminder, completely optional. Don't have to do this. And as we wind down here, here's a few resources for you. This recording, as I said earlier, will be shared with you all and will be posted on our website. We have a wealth of information on our website, including guides, handbooks. You can also snap that QR code. And then if you have any questions, reach out to our team and where we can help you to find the resources on our website and help you with the information that is in the statute and the guides. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Andrew Smith, or Mr. Donald, and we're going to get his presentation pulled up.
Oh, we're not doing it from that?
Oh, you can speak for the mic though, yeah.
Yeah, speak with the
Okay.
mic. Yeah.
I'll probably speak loud enough that I don't need this, but good morning, I'm Donald Shockey. I'm a senior planner at the Atlanta Regional Commission. I serve as the Plan Review Manager. I handle the developments of Regional Impact Program, but also the review of comp plans and CIEs. So I know you probably have a lot of questions based on the information that Daniel gave. How much time? We do have a lot of time reserved for questions, right? So there'll be plenty of time for questions, but I'm really here just to talk to you about the process of getting these plans reviewed and approved, which does have to be done on an annual basis once you establish a CIE element. So again, Daniel covered a lot of these pieces. The first step is when you first create a CIE, you have to use all that great information to really craft one. Ideally, you would use a consultant because it is a very complicated process and you want to make sure it's as defensible as possible because it is subject to potential legal challenges. Unlike a comp plan, for instance, a comp plan, you may set out goals or projects, and if you don't meet them, you're probably not going to get sued. But because you're actually collecting money to complete these projects, there is a legal aspect. So it is really important. But you develop the plan as has been discussed, and you send it to us, and we submit it to the DCA for review and approval. And then once that's done, you get to choose, and it's approved, you get to choose the annual update deadline as Daniel mentioned. Um, and so we manage the review for both the new CIEs and the annual updates. And occasionally people want to discontinue their program, as Daniel mentioned. I don't think that requires a review, but occasionally cities want to amend their program. And that also requires basically the same review as a new CIE requires. So when you do a new CIE, again, ideally you use a consultant. It does have to be approved by your local government through a resolution. You submit that to us as a single document because we don't manipulate documents just to avoid introducing any kind of errors. And then we submit that to the DCA, and the clock starts ticking on their portion of the review. They will respond with potential changes, revisions that are required, or they also may include advisory comments, which are really just suggestions, but we always really strongly urge people to respond to the advisory comments because it just makes it more likely that the process will go more smoothly going forward. And there is a 40-day maximum period for the DCA review. But that can, if there are required revisions, that can get reset if you have to go through several revisions. So that's really a reason to try to get it right the first time to avoid these additional delays. One of Daniel's slides noted how many CIEs are in the whole state. I think it was 593 around. Oh, okay. So 62 around the state. So because they review all of them around the state. In addition, so it's not just our region that they have to review. So when those deadlines come up, the documents start pouring into them, and so there's quite a crunch. All right, so while they're doing their review, ARC conducts a regional review where we package the document and send it out. I'm sure most of you have received one of the many thousands of emails I send out that contains these documents. We send them out to adjacent jurisdictions, but also key institutional stakeholders like GDOT and similar institutions. And we really just ask them, do you have any comments? We rarely get comments, but the kind of comments you might see is like if there were two adjacent jurisdictions and you had road projects, you might see that this other jurisdiction has a road project that might have an opportunity for coordination for something you're doing, or it might actually create a conflict that you need to look at. Again, that's pretty rare, but we are required to provide that opportunity, and you have 21 days that process takes 21 days. So there's 21 days for neighboring jurisdictions to offer any comments. We also look at it internally at ARC, again, primarily within our transportation division to see if there's any conflict with planned transportation projects. Things like libraries and things like that, we don't really have a framework to look at it, to compare it against, but definitely transportation projects, trails, things like that, we take a closer look at that. And the 50-day max period is something in the regulations, which is a combination of ARCs and the DCA review. Once it's approved, you go back and you have to officially adopt it, and then you send the version that you adopted, because sometimes you have to make changes, along with the resolution. Again, as one document, you send that back to us, and we follow up with the DCA, and they'll reissue or extend your QLG status once all that's done. And those are the 3 dates that are the deadlines. You choose one of those when you first create the program. And then the annual updates. So that's required every year, again, by You have to have the whole process completed by that deadline. And that means you really need to back out some time and give it at least 60 days. 90 days is even better, because there's a lot of wrangling in a lot of these situations where it has to be aligned with your local uh, council schedule, and sometimes there's not an opportunity. Sometimes the process takes a little bit longer, and a jurisdiction has to schedule a special meeting, which nobody, of course, likes to do that. So just really the advice is to give it, to start as early as you can, and just be cognizant of these dates. And again, because this is tied to your QLG status, it is a really important thing that could affect your eligibility to to maintain access to all these other wonderful programs. We again submit it to the DCA for review, and then they respond with comments. There's a 40-day maximum period for the DCA review um, for this stage. Just some tips about how to really try to avoid delays and rejections and corrections. Um, it is helpful to have a consultant prepare or participate in the update, but it's not required. The DCA has these very simple templates that you can follow. Sometimes people go way beyond that, which is an attempt, I think, to be helpful and give additional information, but can often sometimes backfires because in doing that, they may neglect actually the core information that's required. So definitely start with those. If there's anything relevant to add, you can. Those are on the DCA website. Audited financial information. It has to be audited. That's been a problem for many jurisdictions because it's often hard to find accountants that do this work and to get them audited in time to be able to meet the deadline. So that's something to consider, the availability of an auditing, of the auditing function. That's something to consider when you set your deadline. And again, the things that Daniel covered, you're limited to the categories. You can't fund other projects. There needs to be consistency from one year to the next in the category names. You can't just add a category. The balances, all the numbers need to work, the starting, ending balances. There are a lot of rejections because of that. So simple math errors. So just really, do some quality control checks, just to avoid any kind of simple errors. And then again, we just ask that you send it to us as one document because we don't want to inadvertently introduce any errors by combining documents. These are just some resources and links to forms, guidance. There's extensive guidance available on the DCA site. And we're also happy to try to answer questions if you want to call us. We do serve as sort of an interface with the DCA and direct. We prefer, the process prefers that you go through us first in an attempt to resolve an issue or anything, just again, because they cover the whole state and they just have a lot of potential people to respond to. So any questions and issues, we do ask that you try to go through us first. We don't have the staff to give complicated financial advice or to do complicated financial analysis, but we can, again, that's not where most of the errors come from. They're usually more basic things. And so you can ask us. We're happy to try to help. Okay. I think I've already covered this. When you do, there's something interesting Andrew found in the regulations. When you create a new CIE, you can't adopt it, even if everything goes really smoothly. You can't adopt it earlier than 60 days from the initial adoption or the initial submittal. So that is kind of an unusual thing. It doesn't happen that often, of course, just when you're doing that. initial establishment. And just some other things regarding staff turnover. That happens a lot. We get a call from a panicked jurisdiction. What do I do? Just really document the procedures, like in a position description, and make sure those are available for the next person that might fill that role, because we all know that people do move around. So we also do get requests for extensions that are only granted if there's some like really big emergency, like the local records were lost in a fire or something like that. It's not, any kind of anything sort of less than that. Staff turnover is not a valid reason to get an extension. So just be aware that extensions are really rare. You can resubmit, you can request for your deadline to be changed. And that's fairly easy to do, but you do have to go through the DCA to do that. And it also changes your comp plan update deadline. So because they're very much linked. So if you do change that, then be aware that it also changes the larger comprehensive 5-year update deadline. I think that's it. You can certainly email me. My email address is right there. Happy to answer any questions. And I guess the panel is going to take their seats now.
Donald. All right, so I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes to get some more refreshments and use the restroom. But then if our panel members can please make their way up here, we'll get seated and get started in 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Up top?
Yeah, up top. Yes. Emily or Avery or any other ARC staff, can you come please see me, please? Thank you. I was going to have one of my ARC staff.
I know we have. Thank you so much for being here today, too.
Yeah.
Of course.
I always email you.
Right. Yeah, anywhere right here is perfect.
Great input on projects and everything, so.
Donald, that was great. Thank you for that. You hit all like the most important things, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you could hit that in out, like the whole about institutional knowledge, because twice now I've stepped into situations.
Press it and it'll turn green, so when they're talking to them, when they pass it back to you.
Real muddle.
We see it all the time, and it's so painful, right? I mean, you just try to make it work, but unfortunately, it's a fact of life. It's gonna happen.
Okay.
Hi. Oh, yes, hi, yes. I saw your message. I'll get back to you. For sure. No, it's a complicated system.
Richard.
You're Fayette County?
They're working on a system.
I used to run LUCC.
So I'll get back to you.
I live in
Sure.
Come on.
Yes.
Better appreciate it.
No problem. Me too.
So I was asked to do this 2 days ago.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, y'all can sit down. Y'all don't have
A couple of weeks to.
Okay, I have stuff, but just wanted to give you a heads up.
I didn't really prepare a lot.
That's what
It's
I have the
gonna
same
be
thing.
fairly
Yep.
extemporaneous.
I actually thought of questions too while they were going through theirs. But I didn't write them down though. I can't remember what they were. So.
I have an interesting gavel. You have to say gavel.
Well, I know one of the questions. There's you can't just leave it in there forever, right? Like if you collect money for a library and then you don't use it, there's a time frame
Well,
for using it,
there's
right?
the refund clause, right? So, I mean, we can get into like the intent of the law on collections,
Right.
but without being so legal, because I'm not a lawyer.
I didn't
I think it's funds held for 6 years or more are eligible to be refunded. which is one of many reasons why tracking the funds is so important.
Yeah.
But
That
it
is
has to be
stressful.
requested.
Hello? Oh, okay.
So the developer
That's an
will
interesting way to
come back
get,
and request those
thrown
funds, but I
into
don't think the city or
Automatic
county.
sunset.
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello.
So we ended up not.
Hello, hello, hello.
Changes.
Oh yeah, there goes.
So that was kind of weird. On.
I'm with Roswell. Yeah, Ackworth, I think, pulled out a couple days ago. So. We're about done. Yeah, yeah, with the impact fee update. We just did our CIE update. So,
Yeah, I don't think we've met. I'm sorry.
Richard.
Julie Yoder.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
You're
Nice.
from
Roswell.
Roswell. Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. So you
Yes.
were asked so recently to participate.
Yeah, 2 days
Thank
ago.
you for
Mhm.
participating.
yeah, absolutely.
Filling in, man.
You know,
Thank you.
are you at all involved in your CIE
Do you know anything about it? Thank you so much.
Oh, jeez, all
And
right.
been a planner for about a year and a half. It's fine. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Are you just gonna
Alright.
bounce one-to-one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what should be the first one for each one. So I'm thinking like,
Emailed a million
how was
times.
the process of
I don't
launching
actually know
it?
if
Could be
you've
a
ever
good
been in
first one for the cities and
Yeah.
counties.
Yeah.
So with Fayette County.
There's so many good questions.
Is Fayetteville is in Fayette County, right? Yeah. Sort of. I go there all the time. It's where
Because
my
this is what
mother-in-law
we get
lives
asked all the
and
time.
whatnot.
And
So I spend a lot of time in
so-
Fayetteville.
And I obviously can't answer, so I would think it would benefit
Did
a
you?
lot of people.
Wow.
I would hope.
So did my mother-in-law. She grew up in Fayetteville, Peachtree City.
Build a strong foundation.
Yeah, awesome. So you're a homegrown.
Yeah, I've moved farther south. I'm wondering now.
Saving that for
Sure. Atlanta started.
Did you want this?
Oh, gotcha.
I was thinking about this list of questions in front of me.
I live in Doraville. So it's like an hour drive to Roswell because there's no. Brookhaven, so we're close. Yeah. I go to Brookhaven for fun stuff.
You can just have your plans for capital improvements outside of.
It's like, well, yeah. Buckhead used to be the place. I understand that. Buckhead used to be the place. Brookhaven, Chambly.
It really only matters when you have an established program and it comes up on your 5-year comp plan update year, and then your annual CIE updates due the same trimester. But those are treated
So even though it has the same name, it's
That's the reason this number 2 is so still.
Yeah.
We
Well,
talked about
Buford Highway on Doraville.
Skip that.
They got all this.
whatever money is there from everywhere else.
Yeah, that's where all the good stuff is.
Yeah. So if you do really have,
That's the main benefit of living in Doraville.
local governments have a CIE element, a non-impact.
So you're at Brookhaven, that's nice.
But if you do, you can differentiate them. And just, when you do your update, maybe have a subsection.
Yep.
In that section. Do you guys have a CIE?
Is that in DeKalb? Or is that- that's in DeKalb.
So we're looking at, we have the TDR.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But now with the way things have been done,
Right. Sure. My apartment complex where I live in Doraville, apparently my part of the apartment complex is in unincorporated DeKalb County.
Yeah.
In Doraville.
Out a little bit,
I
man.
can't like vote on any Doraville stuff. And I found that out when I went to vote. I was like, "Where's all this city council stuff?" And then if I were to vote police, it's DeKalb County police. But I'm like, of course, I live in one building that's outside the city.
Private land?
Yeah, man, it's like
If you call Dover police, they're like, "Gotta call the cab."
a little bit of plan travel.
Yeah, pretty much.
All rise, let's go. We're bringing the court into session. If everyone can please sit down, that would be lovely.
I'm so rattled right now.
They should not have given me a gavel. That was the worst decision Philip could have ever made, but that's fine. All right, everyone. So we have a lot of questions that were submitted by you all for this lovely panel. And before we even get started, actually, it would be so beneficial for everyone to introduce themselves. So I'd actually like to start over here, Paige, if you don't mind.
All right, this is where I have to say, can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. I'm Paige Hatley. I am formerly from the public sector, but I currently am on the consulting side of things. I'm a city planner with a background in zoning and comprehensive planning, and then about 10 years ago, took a little bit of a pivot to the world of impact fees and working with communities to develop and maintain and update impact fee programs, inclusive of CIEs and annual updates. Much of that work was under the tutelage of Mr. Bill Ross, who's the granddaddy of impact fees in the state, and was here, helped with the inception or the crafting of the 1990 DEFA law. And so you may have heard his name, and then I also hang my own shingle as Hatley Plans and work on my own with communities, or partner with, I like to say. So that's my background. And again, thanks everyone. Happy to answer questions. Thank you, Shayla.
Everyone can hear me? My name's Richard Sykes. I'm planner 2 at the City of Roswell. My background is planner 2 at City of Roswell. For a year and a half. This is my first, being in this field. But we've been doing an impact fee update since I've started working there. So that's basically all I've been doing, is working on updating our impact fees, working on our CIEs. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Debbie Bell. I'm Director of Planning and Zoning with Fayette County. I've also worked with Spalding County and the City of Americus and Newton County, and my background is landscape architecture.
And just as a reminder, everyone, I'm Jillian Porter Willis. I'm going to be trying to lead this panel, but just FYI, this is my first day learning about CIEs and impact fees. Unfortunately, my previous life at Cherokee County, they did not teach me this, so today was my day of learning. So I'm going to do my best to lead us through this panel, but I might ask some what I would think are stupid questions, but also from the list of questions you guys all submitted. So hopefully none of them are going to be counted as stupid. Julie.
No stupid impact fee questions. I'm Julie Yoder. I'm the principal planner and planning manager at DCA, aka Courtney Love, who you saw earlier. I look a little different. I've been at DCA for 7 years. Previously, I was at Henry County, and I've been at the Columbus Consolidated Government before that. I manage all planning programs, so that's comp plans, service delivery strategies, annexation arbitration, DRIs, and impact fees.
Yeah, I'm Andrew Smith. I'm a planning coordinator at ARC. I've been there for about 15 years. I work alongside Jillian and Donald and Lauren Blasek, who's also in the back of the room there. I work on comprehensive plan updates directly for communities, but in a previous life for many years, I did basically all the day-to-day review work that Donald now does. So I've got a lot of just, I guess, legacy experience on the review side, and have come to learn a lot of the pitfalls and tips, even though I'm not a capital planning expert by any means. We'll leave that to Paige and some of our local governments for sure. But just happy to be here and help answer any questions.
And I'm Donald Shockey. I spoke to you earlier. I've been with the Atlanta Regional Commission for 5 years. I've been a planner for many, many years before that in a variety of public and private sector roles, different countries in the United States, in a lot of time spent in Miami, and I've been in Atlanta for 7 years. And I just actually renewed my degree at Georgia Tech with another master's degree in city and regional planning, so that was a great experience.
So we tried to ensure we had a diverse panel up here, and especially to local governments. And Julie did this whole process of trying to identify some great local governments that would be good case studies to have up here. And so, of course, Fayette County and the City of Roswell were two of those local governments that we identified. But just for everyone's knowledge, there are some other local governments that we reached out to, like the city of Kennesaw, the city of Milton, and the city of Ackworth, that have all gone through, I'm looking at you, Chanel, that have all gone through the CIE process fairly well with very few hiccups and have gotten it updated on time and has maintained their QLG status. That is sort of why you see these two individuals up here today, because they rock it over at their local governments and get the job done. And so, yes, we were hoping to have some type of representation, but we also want to let you guys know that some of the questions asked are open to the room. So when I asked the city of Roswell or Fayette County about their process of going to the annual update, it would be interesting to hear if there's a community out there that does it differently. You know, some people have one staff member who works on it every single year, and then that causes turnover issues, or some have a group of people who can handle it. So just letting you guys know, we do have two ARC members, Emily and Avery, if you all would raise your hands. They have mics that we will run around the crowd for questions and answers. But to just kind of get us started, I'm curious, Debbie, have you been involved in the start of creating this initiative?
No.
No, okay. So then maybe Paige, you can maybe help us answer, like, what is the process of launching this initiative, and like how long should people expect to be doing this, and just that general idea?
Sure. So for communities contemplating impact fees from the outset, if you don't currently collect, I typically tell folks that to establish a program, I mean, it's really not less than about 12 months to give yourself enough room to prepare the CIE, which is the project-based document that requires DCA review. You have to have your fee calculations, which in some communities we call that the methodology report, which is actually calculating the fees that could be charged to help pay for the approved projects in the CIE document. With the advisory committee was mentioned, that's mandated by state law, has to be convened. There are public hearings associated with the CIE and with the development impact fee ordinance, which is a robust 25-page document that mirrors the requirements of the state law and then includes the fee schedule that has public hearings. And then any deliberation, of course, by your elected officials on what the heck they actually want to do, if they want to proceed with an impact fee program, how much they want to charge, and then the implementation with staff. Impact fees are issued, I'm sorry, not issued, they're collected at the time that building permits are issued. So whoever is issuing your building permits, there's going to be training there. There has to be someone that acts in the capacity of an impact fee administrator, akin to a zoning administrator, to make calls that may be needed in administering the program. So, sorry, long answer, but on about 12 months, it can definitely extend, just depending on how much time is needed to really vet, especially, you know, as was mentioned previously, it's extra money coming out of folks' pockets. Developer may pay, but it's a pass-through fee, and so, you know, regardless, it's got to have to be accounted for when folks are working their numbers for housing development, mixed use, et cetera. And so sometimes more time is needed to really discuss with everyone that's going to be affected, potentially new development who's going to be paying the fee.
Thank you. Yes.
That, if there's any of that.
Yeah, I don't want to cut anyone off. Okay, awesome. So now for our local governments, I am curious the kind of step-by-step process you have for your annual updates, because you both have active CIEs. So what is the process for that annual update? Like, how do you work? Especially, I think we might not have mentioned that the Fayette County CIE is actually a joint with the town of Tyrone, Woolsey, and Brooks.
Right.
Yes, so interesting to hear about that process of like getting everything together to ensure that it's ready in time for that update.
So I try to get started as quickly as I can get the financial report from finance, which is once the audit's complete. And while I'm waiting for that, I'll prepare their resolution and their adoption documents, so I have that ready to send out, because each of the towns has to have their own public hearing for the CIE update before I can take it back before the Board of Commissioners, and then we submit that package to DCA. And then we sort of repeat that process with the adoption, except that we don't have to do the public advertisement. So I have to allow enough time to coordinate with the other jurisdictions?
Yeah, Roswell, we have had some turnover lately. So this has been an issue. Our deputy director, Jackie, she's been there for over 20 years, so she has all the institutional knowledge when it comes to the CIE annual update. Our planner 3 was trained on this, and I was trained on this, and we lost our senior planner. So I've been doing the annual update, and basically we just look at, we take last year's CIE, we send it out to all the different departments, which is Rec and Parks, Transportation, Fire, and Police, and we give them about 2 weeks to make changes. They send it back. I take a look at it. I'll look at it with the Planning and Zoning Director, look at it with Jackie. And if there's any issues, we can set up meetings with the different departments if they have any questions about what they're really supposed to be doing, because they have turnover as well. A lot of them might not know what a CIE is. So we'll definitely make sure we have meetings, and we do this well before we even get the financial report. So that's usually the last thing that we get. We make sure we have our CIE completely updated. All the different departments is in one file. And then once that's good, we send it to mayor and council.
I just, sometimes with new communities in particular who have adopted the master CIE, so it ends up being, in essence, a standalone component to your comp plan. It can be 25 pages, 50 pages, et cetera. It's its own document. And then they get into having to we're in maintenance mode now. Okay, now that we have the CIE adopted, we're collecting fees, we're spending fees. Now we have to compile our annual update report every year. A few folks, the name annual update can be a little bit misleading. Is you're not updating the master CIE document. And so I kind of have to remind folks sometimes that that guides everything that you do, that adopted detailed list of projects. And so what you are updating is the 5-year work program. You're dropping a year off and adding a year. So it's just a rolling 5-year work program that is based from the table in your adopted CIE. That's what you're updating. So you're pulling projects from the adopted CIE master document, and then you can modify costs, you can modify years, but you can't change the projects themselves. They have to come from the adopted long-range, typically a 20-year horizon CIE. You pull them forward, and then the financial report. I've just seen a few instances where folks have attempted to submit, and they just say, oh, it's an update, and they're just changing projects willy-nilly and just assuming that, oh, it's a road project. We collect for roads, so it must be impact fee eligible, but it doesn't hark back to the CIE. Sorry for my soapbox. It's because folks don't know. They sometimes think it's an update, this is an opportunity, but no, you're not fully amending the actual base document itself. That's still valid until you do a major update to that, like you would for a comp plan.
Okay, and so that,
Verify.
that's a great statement. So they would either have to update or amend the 20-year horizon CIE to bring in a new.
Right, like we do, so you're mandated every 5
Yeah.
years to do a comp plan update. The CIE is technically a component of the comp plan as prescribed by DCA. You aren't mandated to fully update the CIE when you do an update to your comp plan, but it's a good point or practice to evaluate it when you're doing your comp plan, because there could be a change in growth, and I know this was touched on in the previous presentation. Change of growth, you may have exhausted your impact fee expenditures, you need additional projects, the community continues to grow, you need to craft and fully update your CIE. So a good benchmark is to sort of do a gut check on your CIE when you're doing your comp plan. And that would then entail a whole new process again that is spelled out in DCA's guidelines as to hearings that are required and the steps that you need to go through. Not quite as robust as your initial CIE, but still you're revisiting your population housing and employment projections. You're getting with departments again to talk about what they identify as needs for fire and parks, et cetera. A lot of communities don't update it when they do their comp plan, and that's okay if the CIE is still working for you. If you do contemplate amending, doing a full-blown amendment to your CIE when you're updating your comp plan, that can be confusing sometimes. I often suggest do a comp plan and then pull from that. Okay, what came from the comp plan? What does it tell us about growth? What are some major projects we need to be mindful of? If there were population forecasts that were developed from the for the comp plan, then we want to use that and have that be mirrored in the CIE. So the CIE full-blown amendment might fall on the heels of a major comp plan update. Sorry, I can easily get in the
No,
weeds.
no,
I
this is great.
apologize.
This is-
Sorry.
That's why you're here, Paige. That is why Paige is here. All right.
But
So,
Jillian, I
Yes.
just have a clarification for that. But the annual update is an opportunity to add a new project as long as it's in
That's right.
one of the previously approved categories. You can't add a category without an amendment, right? But you-
Exactly, Donald. You can't expand the categories. You can't suddenly add roads if you're not already accounting for that in your CIE, and then it has to be a specifically defined project in your CIE. So that's for accountability. So, you know, these money's coming in and, hey, this is what we're spending it on, but you're exactly correct. As long as it's in the master adopted CIE, no matter how old it is, if that's still valid, you can bring those projects forward in your annual updates.
Yeah, and to build on that, the projected timeline in the master CIE is a best guess, right? The 20 years, but the projects themselves, that's what we want to see. That's what's being planned for. If it's not happening exactly the year you're planning for it to happen, before, after, okay, we want to see that you've planned for it, though.
Yeah, well said.
all right.
Can I add one
Yes,
other
go
thing?
ahead.
Is that there is sometimes maybe well, I don't know, this is more for communities that are considering new programs and don't have them, but, you know, DCA really, you know, all of the background, all of the preliminary work and considerations happens with staff and potentially consultant and elected officials. When it gets to DCA's desk, you know, they don't require, you know, detailed, like you don't require the actual impact fee ordinance.
That's right.
You know, you don't require all the things that are on local record. You just require the new CIE itself and then the annual update. So I just want to draw that distinction
Yes.
too. The impact fee ordinance is the mechanism that activates or animates, operationalizes the CIE itself. It allows you to then go and do the things that are in your CIE and collect for those categories legally and then spend in those categories legally. But, so I just wanted to draw that distinction, that the ordinance that you adopt locally that's linked to your CID is not something that DCA keeps track of or requires to have in their files. And that's important sometimes
Yes.
because when you get staff turnover, you might get people who are like, where's my ordinance? And we're like, you have your ordinance. You got to go look in the files, look on MuniCode, like, you know, that kind of thing. So.
That's very well stated, because that's not DCA's purview, is not to review the fee calculations themselves and to, Julie and I were talking about this earlier, to, you know, weigh in as to, oh, this community's charging too much. No, that's not, that doesn't factor in at all. They're reviewing to ensure that the CIE, the basis for these projects that are being put forward for impact fee collections, that adheres to state law and the ordinance is handled locally.
All right. Now, Donald, you kind of alluded to this, and Andrew or Donald, you can talk a little bit more about it, but what can ARC assist with before having to go to DCA for further clarification? Like, what kind of questions do you guys receive when people submit for impact fee reviews, and what can we answer as ARC, and what requires the higher level answer from the state?
I mean, sometimes it's as simple as, hey, I'm brand new here and I'm trying to learn this role without a lot of guidance, and like, it can be as simple as like, where is my CIE? Like, I'm really lost. Like, where is it? I need to go understand that, and give me the last, you know, several updates. So it could be as simple as just like supplying files and, you know, that thing, but it's sometimes as complicated as, you know, when you get into like the question of audited financials and the timing of what an annual audit requires and how that lines up or doesn't line up with the timing of your trimester deadline or your comp plan schedule. You know, all those things can be complex. We can try to help as much as possible, but when it, like Donald mentioned, when it really gets into like deeper like financial analysis, that's where we kind of back out, you know, or if it's something that's more like on the, I don't know, the legal side is kind of where we defer to DCA. I don't know, Donald, if you have
No,
anything else to add.
Yep, that's basically it, yep.
Yeah, and again, the comment function, it's the same mechanism as we use for comprehensive plan updates every 5 years, which that's something where we typically do get more comments in the regional review and comment period, where we share a comp plan with all the nearby jurisdictions, and they might have something to say about opportunities for coordination or potential conflicts between their plan and the plan in question. Oftentimes for CIE annual updates, we do not get comments from other jurisdictions, but we still have to kind of fulfill, you know, that role and that mechanism, and it's a little bit time consuming, but so oftentimes we just get a lot of questions about procedure, like some of the stuff that Donald covered in his presentation. So that's another place where we can help the most, is like process and like when am I supposed to give you this? When's the good time? When's my deadline? Like, what do you actually need? And we can kind of guide them to DCA's website and to the template for doing the annual updates and to, you know, just kind of low-hanging fruit like that. So.
And something we come across a lot is like, is ARC kind of like the first step communities should be taking when they have questions? Like, are we the conduit to DCA, and is that the process that people should be taking when wanting to talk to DCA about these questions?
Are you asking me? Okay, yes. Yeah, I mean, everything Andrew just said was fantastic, and we really appreciate their role in this process because, like it was said previously, we're responding to these questions from all over the state all the time for this program and several other programs. And so, yeah, the ARC is an excellent resource to go to. And like you said, if it's something they can't answer, they know how to find us. And if we can't answer it, we'll tell you that, and then you probably need to call a lawyer.
Yes, yes. That is something that Julie has taught me, is that a lot of the times it's going to come back to your lawyer, your city attorney, your county attorney, asking them, because there's certain things that ARC or DCA can't really advise on legally.
And your finance staff person.
Yes.
Oftentimes, there's a bifurcation in terms of you've got the long-range planner for your community. Let's say you have a fairly small staff. You've got the long-range planner doing all kinds of things, maintaining the comprehensive plan, maybe amending it, or you've got someone who does a little bit of everything. They're doing day-to-day zoning and development review work, and this is one of those things that can sort of creep up a little bit, and they may not have a background in really like capital improvement planning, either more kind of long-range planning and visioning, or maybe detailed zoning review. And so it's that adequate staffing and then having a real connection to your finance person or your finance team, because oftentimes those are the people you really have to go to, obviously, for your cities or your county's audited financial report, and who you have to go to with any questions about like beginning balances and ending balances, and like, well, why is this a rounding error, or is there like something really going on? You know, so you've got to really have that partnership, and usually it's just walking down the hall, you know, and trying to make sure everything's good before it ever gets to Donald's inbox. But that's something I just really want to stress, is that partnership between finance and the person that actually like maintains the CIE document, because sometimes it's not the same person. And we also see, I'll keep it brief, sometimes we see communities where the planning staff is actually kind of divorced from the CIE maintenance altogether, and it's sort of like offloaded onto the finance people because they're the ones that have to do the financial report every year, and so they kind of become like de facto planners, and I don't think that's a good approach. I think there needs to be a relationship between your planning as the central liaison, and then finance, and then all of your other departments, assuming that you're collecting for things that relate to other departments like fire, police, Parks and Rec, you know, which usually in most cities, not all, those are like all different people that you've got to coordinate with.
All right, thank you, thank you. Question for our jurisdictions. When was the last time your impact fee ordinance has been updated?
For us, it was 2015, so that's why we're updating it now.
Yeah.
Our fees comparatively are quite low now because they're based off 2015 numbers. So that's why we're updating it. And it's, it's been a whole process, big learning process for myself. But yeah, we're working with the consultant to, get those numbers where they need to be.
Okay, because one of my follow-up questions were going to be, because somebody who registered was asking, are there any like model legislations or best practices for adopting impact fees or amending and updating the impact fee ordinances? And so Roswell's taking the step of using a consultant to help with that process.
Yeah, and it was the same consultant that did our 2015, so he was, he's aware of our practice and what we do here in our numbers. So that we're lucky to have that, but yeah, definitely finding a consultant who's done this work before, doing your, research on the consultant that you're interested in, looking at the work that they've done in the past, talking to the cities that have used the consultant to see how they feel. That's kind of the process we went through, and luckily we got a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So ours has not been updated. We're still working with the 2001. We looked at doing an update a couple of years ago, but the Board of Commissioners did not want to expand the program or increase the fees.
Okay.
So we're still working with the same set of projects. And
Yeah. There was another question about like political will and working with elected officials on these programs and understanding like their desire to update it or expand and why they might not want to, or what are the, not the issues, but just kind of the reasoning behind like not expanding. I'm assuming it's because it's going to cost more for developers.
I think so. I think the board just didn't want, like they see the value in the program.
Yeah.
Our program is fire services only, but they just did not want to expand that or increase the fees.
Paige, do you have any thoughts on like best practices and model legislation? Like, what is your process for helping communities through the impact fee program?
So deferring to, we have to follow DCA's guidelines. There's some applicability of the comprehensive plans. So DCA's rules for comprehensive plans that are on their website, and then they also have rules on the impact fee side that get into details as to the CIE and what it needs to constitute. And then the Development Impact Fee Act, I keep a copy of that as that helps provide the framework for the ordinance itself and how we go about calculating fees and ensuring we're complying with state law. But DCA's website too has materials that I talk about. It's not necessarily templates per se. I know for the annual update they have templates, but as far as informational materials for folks who are contemplating impact fees, are new to it, I would suggest going to DCA's website and looking at the materials that had been compiled over time, kind of providing more of a framework and history and examples of how impact fees can be used. And then, again, I always have available to me DCA's 2 sets of guidelines for comp plans, for the impact fees, and then the Development Impact Fee Act. And then otherwise, capital improvement elements, that's, I think they're typically posted on DCA's website with the comp plans, are they? If they're,
So
or
CIEs
they're
are not on the
Okay.
website, no.
But
But it's all open record.
Yeah,
So we're happy to share.
exactly. And also, a lot of communities do post their capital improvement elements on their website, and so reference to those as a model can be looked at as well if folks are interested.
Can I build on that? One thing, this is another like not common, but a question I've gotten periodically that I want to like draw a distinction about is that obviously you as a community, as a city or county, you can always do capital improvement planning without having a CIE, without collecting impact fees. You can have a community work program in your comp plan, used to be called a short-term work program, your 5-year work program that has a lot of different kinds of physical planning and capital planning involved in it, projects that have a physical nature. There's nothing forcing you, like the BTW completely optional slide. There's nothing compelling you to go develop this whole impact fee program. The what I don't want to get lost or the seriousness and of the the legal aspect is big, but the pros, there are a lot of pros, in terms of getting the development community to defray, the cost burden on physical improvements that are tied to whatever they're proposing to build or whatever they're building in your community. There is a pass-through aspect, and sometimes, I don't know, like, I've never done like a data deep dive. I'd be interested, maybe this is another conversation for another day, but just like anecdotally, like, does it automatically create leapfrog development where they bypass your community? I don't think that's like the majority. I mean, otherwise, I don't think anybody would have impact fee programs, because they wouldn't be getting any money from them, and they would realize these are useless. But so I think that there's a lot of benefit to it, but the seriousness of like the deliberation and consideration and the methodology and the appropriate staffing is really important. But that's all stemming from, I do want to stress that you can do capital planning and thinking about your capital facilities using other funding, whether it's your general fund, whether it's just other buckets of funding. You don't have to use impact fees.
All right. So who in the audience knows if their community has an impact fee ordinance right now? That's active, adopted, ready to go? Okay. When's the last time you've updated it? Has anyone updated it recently?
Not the annual report, but like an amendment.
Like the ordinance? Emily?
Oh, sorry.
The city of Atlanta updated theirs in 2020. It was adopted in 2021, and we are currently updating our study right now. We commissioned it in February of this year.
What is this process like for you? Like, what did you guys find, like, best practices anywhere else? Did you use a consultant?
We're using a consultant.
Okay.
And I personally did, all those impact fees at City of Atlanta. So I did research and especially all the new ones who have started, Savannah and others, just seeing what are some of the new things that people are doing to also get an idea of how we should be moving forward.
That's a great point. You can always ask DCA, like, hey, what communities have started new impact fee programs in the last 5 years or the last 10 years? There's actually a couple in our region. It was kind of this historic, like, legacy group of early impact fee program adopters from like the early 2000s and sometimes in the 90s. And that kind of stayed the same for a while, but we have gotten a couple communities in our region in the last 2 years probably that are implementing new, brand new CIEs. Yep.
Any other thoughts on that? Any comments, questions about impact fee ordinances? Because, like, I think these, Julie has already said, like, we don't, ARC or DCA doesn't see impact fee ordinances, and we don't keep them up on our websites or anything. So in terms of like being able to help with best practices and like models for ordinances, we would also have to go research for you on your behalf. And sometimes we're so busy that we cannot do that, unfortunately. But that's why using our peer cities, like the city of Atlanta, talking about all these other places that they've been looking at is really important. And like Andrew mentioned, we can definitely let you know like who has recently updated, amended, and made changes to their programs to help kind of facilitate that partnership and discussion between those communities.
I'll add, we do have on our website who is permitted to collect. We have that list available. And like I said, everything's an open record.
That's for the entire state.
It's for the whole state. It does have communities listed by region as well, so you know where they are. And it's not on our website, but I can tell you who collects for what collection categories. All that kind of information we have, it's just not out there. So if you ever have any questions about any of that or need some data, we can try to get you that kind of information.
In Municode, of course, for ordinances, that's readily accessible if folks are wanting to look at models for the ordinances themselves. The text, the fee schedules that are included, the ordinance won't shed light on how the fees were calculated, but the balance of the ordinance leading up to the fee schedule with all of the text, those are easily found and cross-referenced with the communities that Julie mentioned is available on the website of who is authorized to collect impact fees. So yeah, Municode, beg, borrow, and steal for whatever's working in other communities.
And I will say, for our update, using DCA's, the information on DCA's website has been a godsend because they have really good stuff on impact fees regarding, of course, just starting out, but also with impact fee updates specifically. So that really helped us, City of Atlanta, or Roswell.
All right. Let's see
Jillian,
what-
are you taking these in any order or? are these
No, but
kind
if
of-
you want to.
Yeah, I just saw just one that I thought was interesting. How can impact fee programs be leveraged more strategically to support economic development goals, not just infrastructure recovery? That's a big challenge because it's a reactive program. It's saying if you're going to build these 100 houses, those houses are going to have these impacts, and so we need to collect some additional money to be able to provide the capacity to meet those impacts. So, Paige, have you ever seen it used for like a more proactive kind of? It's much harder, I think, to craft a defensible linkage there, right?
I'll tie that to perception, and forgive me if this isn't getting to the question, but I have heard that we are experiencing rapid residential growth, and we want to update our impact fees to increase them so that either A, people knocking on our door, they're going to have to pay that, or maybe it will dissuade the influx of residential development. That's the perception. If it's not going to slow growth with a higher fee that can be legally adjusted, supported with appropriate calculations, et cetera, well, then if they'll pay it anyway, okay. Or concerns from the economic development perspective, well, what will they do for us? And this was already mentioned, is someone going to go elsewhere about the perception of the negative connotation for in a neighboring county that doesn't have impact fees? And I'd be curious from folks who have impact fee programs, because usually my not living on that side of the table, I don't mean it to be a pat answer, but sometimes, I'm looking and saying, well, here's who's authorized to collect impact fees. And I think most everyone who's authorized by the state in the metro area, most of them are still collecting. So they're collecting fees, and if it were an issue, then there are mechanisms to either take your fees down to zero or just to get rid of the impact fee program altogether. But valid concerns, certainly, and a bit nuanced. But those are just some of the things I've heard about concerns one way or the other, or using impact fees as a tool, or it could be a disincentive.
Can I add one quick thing? I mean, I think, just philosophically, I think if you have a healthy program where you're not dissuading development, and you are using those impact fees appropriately, I think all those, having strong projects and points of pride in your community, in your libraries and your parks and your public safety systems are all indirectly supportive of economic development goals. I think anybody could make that case for sure, even if they're not directly or explicitly linked, in that way. But it still is a kind of thing, like Donald said, that's a little bit reactive. It's not really, it's there to try to accommodate growth. It's not there to necessarily channel the location of growth necessarily. It's not explicitly there to push growth away. That may be an unintended consequence sometimes. But it's really there to accommodate and provide appropriate public facilities in the capital sense for your community. And maybe that's a little bit of an old school philosophy in planning sometimes, which it's from the 80s and 90s, and there may not be a scientific answer about if you have X percentage of acres per capita in your community, that means people will be happy. Would be pseudoscience, I think, but the philosophy is there to accommodate growth and provide, infrastructure and appropriate capital facilities that I think, again, will help at least stabilize your community and mitigate the impacts of growth, or in part, and indirectly support economic development goals is kind of the way that I've always thought about it.
And I've heard anecdotally, a long time ago, someone had mentioned that they had heard a developer say, okay, this is an impact fee community, here's the adopted CIE, and look what they have identified for future parks that are identified as being needed to serve growth. In other words, it's a plan, it's not a technical plan per se, but this is going to benefit the neighborhood that I'm building. And so to be able to show that this is a roadmap, this is what has been identified for the next 20 years as this incremental implementation of these projects that are going to benefit what I'm putting into the community in terms of the development. So sort of spinning it that way as well, they had found some benefit.
Question, Don.
Yeah, I saw Philip with your hand up.
Just commentary from a city in Fayette County. We kind of live. Debbie makes it easy for us, right? Because we report just the fire impact fees that the county collects because we use county fire service for service delivery. But we do have an impact fee ordinance, and it's been zeroed out. We did an assessment. This is just maybe the perspective from a community that had this happened. This happened before my time here, but I know what happened. We had an impact fee ordinance. It's still on the books, but it's been zeroed out. It's inactive at this point. And the reason was because maintaining the impact fee program was more costly than the getting of the fees. The other thing that we had to note was we had to have a capital improvement element. Maybe we didn't even have the money to do a particular project in that CIE. And even though we had some money from impact fees that would go toward that project, we could not accomplish that project with the rest of the gap funding that was necessary from other sources. So it's very important for us. We ended up basically zeroing out our fees and retiring the program, even though the ordinance is still on the books. So it's just something that, as a small town perspective, that's where we operated. We now operate, of course, with the county, fire, service delivery. We send our resolution. The capital improvement element sits at the county, but we still use our community work program as part of the comp plan for that. And the only other thing that I'll note from just kind of a planning perspective or just economic development, some of these fees that are collected are also collected in enterprise funds for sewer or for stormwater utilities. We've noticed this too, our sewer enterprise, the way that it operates, we have fees that are associated with sewer that essentially operate like an impact fee similarly, but don't come with the restrictions. The same for a stormwater utility. It's an enterprise. You can have some of these fees, you can't go wild, but you can have some of these fees that operate similar to how an impact fee program would operate, but it's far less restrictive because it's reserved for the enterprise fund and operates very differently than the rest of our general fund budget. So that's just something that's a lesson that we've learned as a small town. We kind of lean into that a little bit more. We, of course, have service delivery negotiations with the county on fire service, and so we do that reporting and we just do what Debbie tells us to do, which is easier for us, and we really appreciate that partnership. But that's kind of a little bit of a history of a town that we have an ordinance on the book. We maintained that program. It was actually for the size that we were, for the amount that we were collecting, our level of growth, the capital projects, everything. It was just not a sustainable program for us. So that's something to keep note of.
We had one more question right here in the middle.
I'll add to Philip's comments. If you do collect these enterprise funds or tap fees or anything that looks like an impact fee but is not an impact fee, in your GOMI, your research surveys at the end of the year, RLGF, everything, please be clear that you are not collecting impact fees, that those are different funds, or you will hear from our office.
And don't put non-impact fee, like utility fee, utility fees and enterprise. Don't conflate those two and then end up putting them in your CIE annual update or putting them in, because they are not the same.
They are not the same. Yes.
I just wanted to give two examples where you can do what could lead to some economic development. Two that I've done in the last few years in the city of Atlanta. Two that I have researched on but have not done. The first thing I want to say is anything dealing with impact fees, it has to be the same for everybody. You do not do negotiations with developers one-to-one. This is the rules for everybody. So in the city of Atlanta, if you have a project that is 1,000 linear feet and you can walk to it from a train station, because we have trains, right? You get automatically 50% reduction on your transportation impact fees. That is automatic in the calculation. You don't have to apply for it. We literally look at the map, oh, your project is here, it's 1,000 feet, it meets the qualifications. So that it can lead to transit-oriented development. So that's one way. So you can do reductions based on automatic reductions, and that's for everybody. We don't negotiate that. If you qualify, you get it. If you don't, you don't. The other way you can do it is through your impact fee, what's it called? When you give impact fee credits, and I'm exploring how to make this more robust. So if a developer, because they can often do things faster than us in government, is doing a project and they want to do a system improvement, meaning it does not benefit their particular project directly and only. For example, we had a developer put in 2 traffic lights for streets away from their property that were leading to their area, but it was going to be increased traffic. Those traffic lights cost $500,000. They paid for them on their own dime, but in return, we gave them credit for a future project to use towards their impact fees they would have to pay anyway. They're a developer. They're probably going to see us again and pay us again. So they can use that for a future project. And because we have service areas, it has to be also within that same geographical service area. The other 2 ways you can do it would be through different types of exemptions. We used to do, if you do a homeless shelter, you can do a cut rate on your fees for that, affordable housing, and other economic development opportunities. We currently don't do those in the city of Atlanta because they do require you to replace those funds. The other 2 ways are revenue neutral to the program. And those replacement funds cannot come out of impact fees. So you have to find those dollars somewhere else if you do exemptions. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that to leverage that. And then the last way you can do that I have not done, but I've heard it researched, is you can create service areas. Let's say you have an older industrial area that has not seen any life. You can create a service area around that, and it can have its own fee schedule, which can be different than the rest of the city. So you're kind of targeting that area as a way to spur economic development.
Yeah, very often for smaller communities, the service area is just citywide. That's a very common thing that we see. But for larger cities, that you can have different geographic service areas. I don't know.
And just to, yes, that is a tool, but there has to be the underpinnings for the service area. You still have to do the robust calculations as far as projected growth for the particular service area and the fee, the associated projects that are needed, and then the associated fee that would be calculated that could be charged for that. And then you would have a different fee collection for that service area. So Atlanta, I think, is, with its size, is a great case study on looking at these different tools that could be brought to bear. But typically, yes, the service area, just on that point, would be citywide or the unincorporated county. But excellent point about the exemptions, because if the state law says that you can exempt projects that create extraordinary economic growth or development or for affordable housing, those have to be defined by your elected body, and then review criteria should be applied in making decisions if a development satisfies that. But whatever you reduce or exempt in the way of impact fees, whether it's partial or fully, it's got to come out. Typically, the general fund has to be transferred into the impact fee fund. So a lot of people don't do the technical exemptions, as you mentioned, that are specifically identified under the 1990 law, because it's not free to anybody. You got to make up what's not being collected by the private entity.
And as much as I hate to do this, it is 12:03, and LUCCs typically end at 12. And I am so sorry. We had 36 submitted questions ahead of this meeting, and we got through maybe 5 of them. But that's because this is a very complicated topic, and we need to actually discuss it a little bit more. So maybe this is telling me that we need to have another CIE meeting. But I do want to end on one final question, because I know people have asked us this and has asked DCA, but are there any rule updates in the works? And what are the changes we can expect?
Yeah, so we are working on updating the rules. Everything we're talking about is very old. If you don't know, now you know. And so obviously we'll be cleaning stuff up. The rules right now reference RDCs. regional development centers, which if you know, you know. Now we're regional commissions. I don't know when.
We haven't been RDCs
I was
for a
gonna
long
say, it was a
time.
long time. It was before I came to DCA. So we're gonna remove old references and stuff like that, but also clarifying the submittal process to align with current standards, providing clear direction and guidance on what is to be included in CIEs and annual updates, just really clarifying all the way around. If you've worked with the rules, Paige, I'm sure you know, there's a lot of pain points, and so we recognize that. And we've been held up the last several years with just legislation tying our hands with SDS laws and annexation arbitration and getting other rules updated. And so everybody knock on wood or something, because I'm hoping this year's the year, thank you, that we can get an update moving on this. I do have a draft, and when it is ready to go, it'll go through several drafts and reviews on our end. We will make it public. The draft will be reviewable to everyone before it goes to the DCA board for adoption. That'll be on our website when it happens. And I think our planning team, Kareth, our admin, will send out an email to every city and county, basically letting you know that that's there for review. So stay posted. If you have any questions or want any updates in the meantime, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us on planning, because we really want to talk about it with you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Julian,
Oh, yes.
Just, if anybody had a burning question that we didn't get to, do you want to tell them to email us?
Email Donald.
Go to Donald's house.
I could create like a form that we could be the keeper of questions and like pass them along to the appropriate parties and get some answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just in case anybody had something really burning they were hoping was going to be answered in person.
Yeah.
At least we could try to be responsive to that.
Yeah, so I always do a follow-up email after LUCCs, and in that I will let you guys know where to submit. Follow-up questions are questions that you did already submit, but we did not get to, and you're like, no, you're gonna answer this. We will get to it, so just look out for that follow-up email. It should be either tomorrow or Friday. But thank you all so much for coming out to the town of Tyrone, and please take the short walk down their main street and see the beautiful spaces that they have. And thank you to our panelists for being here. I know we didn't get to all the questions and get to hear from you, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Philip, this is very dangerous to have in front of me. What is this? I'm gonna press it.